Coming up next, we'll tell you about the brand new sneaky loophole that some of the high-tax states like New York and California are trying to use to get around the new federal tax code. Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. One of the best things about the Trump income tax changes that were made just before Christmas was that for some of the higher tax states in America, and I happen to pay taxes in one of them, those high tax states actually are going to be adversely affected by this, but it may help bring things back into line. The problem is now some of those high tax states are trying to figure out a gimmick to work around the changes that were wrought by the federal tax, or in the federal tax code, by the United States Congress and by President Trump. Jonathan Williams joins me now, chief economist with the American Legislative Exchange Council. Mr. Williams, thanks a lot for taking the time tonight.
Well, thanks a lot for having me back on the show, and greetings from the land of make-believe, Washington, D.C.
Boy, I'll tell you, if Washington, D.C. is in the land of make-believe, how about California and New York, where they've come up with a crafty and I think sleazy workaround to try to give some of their highest dollar earners in the state, the highest taxpayers, a workaround to try to escape the taxes that they might have to pay by creating some kind of phony charitable deduction. How is this going to work?
Well, it is unreal. I mean, first of all, Andrew Cuomo in New York has gone to war with the president in this tax reform plan, which, by the way, of course, they criticize as being a giveaway to the rich, first of all, and now they're complaining that it's actually going to impact higher income earners in places like high-tax states like New York and California. Secondly, in California, I guess you're right, the real land of make-believe these days is they are coming up with this unreal proposal to create a state-run charity to basically allow their taxpayers to avoid federal taxes and giving people a dollar-for-dollar benefit back, which, there's no way on earth this is going to be allowed by the IRS under any kind of neutral observation of tax law. But it's just unreal, and it's a slap in the face to all of those legitimate charities that are trying to do good things for good people all across the state of California.
Now, Jonathan, I'm not a numbers guy. You are the numbers guy, so help me walk through this with people. You have a change in the tax code that says that you can no longer deduct an unlimited amount of state and local taxes. So those could include, so if I live in the state of Oregon, or I pay taxes in the state of Oregon, that I would ordinarily take the taxes I pay to Oregon, income taxes, property taxes, and the things like that, and I would deduct them from my income when I reported to the federal government, and then I would pay less money to the federal government. That has been diminished greatly. There's now going to be a limit on mortgage deduction, a limit on state and local taxes, otherwise known as SALT, state and local taxes. So the workaround goes this way, that you would instead make a donation to a charity run by the state in an amount large enough to mimic the deduction you used to get, and then the state would just give you the money back. Is that how it would work?
That is how the, in a way, Ponzi scheme type situation works that California is devising as we speak. And that, of course, is like I said, slap in the face to actual charities. But what it does, of course, is get to the heart of the issue, which is the SALT deduction, which previous to this tax reform was unlimited. Now it's capped at $10,000 annually. And higher income individuals are quite upset about that in some higher cost areas of the country. And it's a sop to higher income individuals. All of these progressive class warriors that were complaining about the tax reform for giving too much benefit to that income class or those income classes are doing a complete about-face and doing the kind of workaround, as you say, to try to make them whole.
Well, and in fact, if I understand the numbers right, under the Trump tax reform federally, 5% or so of people will pay more in taxes, 80% will pay less, and about 15% will pay about the same. So it's a big deduction for about 80%. And those 5% that'll pay more are mostly these upper income types in places like California and New York. Am I right?
Well, yeah, that's right, generally speaking. And then also, that doesn't even consider the impact of the corporate tax reduction, which we all know, based on the announcements of AT&T and Wells Fargo, and now just recently Chrysler, Fiat, moving employees from Mexico to my home state of Michigan, all of the benefits of what's happening on the corporate side, which we know businesses don't pay taxes, people pay taxes. And
Right.
so the benefits of lowering from the highest in the world at 35% to 21% is going to be about $4,000 in higher wages, the estimate is, for every man, woman, and child in the United States. So under that assumption, everyone's going to be better off, bar none, under this federal tax reform.
Well, the other piece of this that I don't understand even how California and New York, they're literally trying to craft some legislation that would do this. But if I use a private charity as an example, and you tell me if this is the way to compare it, if I went to, say, one of the charities I like the Salvation Army, and I said, look, I want to give you guys some money, but I really could use some help with my federal taxes. So how about I give you $20,000? You can actually keep $2,000 of it, and then you just give me $18,000 back. And then I'll tell the federal government I made a $20,000 donation to the Salvation Army, when in fact all I gave them was $2,000. That's what the states are proposing to do, right?
And that would be a scam where you'd
But
find
that's
yourself in hot
illegal.
water with the IRS.
Wouldn't I go to jail
illegal.
for that?
You absolutely would. And even taking it to a simpler level and a smaller dollar level that people are probably familiar with as well is when you go and participate, let's say, in an annual dinner for a charitable organization, you can deduct portion of that ticket that you buy, but not the portion of the meal, because under charitable rules, you are not allowed to get something of value back. It has to be purely a voluntary charitable contribution. So absolutely, this is something that would land people in jail otherwise.
Well, and the other thing that the IRS, I understand, loves to bust, which is why I've always steered way clear of it, is somebody will go to a charity auction and buy a painting, and they'll jack up the value of the painting. They say it's actually a $15,000 painting, but you buy it for $2,000. Then you donate it to a museum with a $15,000 value on it, and the thing you paid $2,000 for gets you a $15,000 deduction. The IRS loves to bust that every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Well, and that's right, and that's why this is such a raw deal for California taxpayers. If for some reason they're able to pass this and California taxpayers go down this road of really interacting with this sham charity idea, is they're going to be very disappointed as the IRS comes in and rules, and hopefully that's not leaving individuals liable for potential prosecution.
Boy, could they be in trouble. Listen, Jonathan, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. You're the chief economist for the American Legislative Exchange Council, and have a wonderful weekend.